And magnificent Marta motors into the quarterfinals here in Brisbane. Oh, that was some win against the number 3 seed, Amanda Anisimova, who was in sparkling form last night. But fast forward 24 hours, and she's been dumped out by Gauff. And that is a win that means a lot.
Amanda Anisimova briefly held the U.S. #1 ranking, but her reign lasted only about 5 minutes before it all came crashing down in Brisbane. Her shocking second-round blowout loss to Marta Kostyuk handed the ranking back to Coco Gauff, without Gauff needing to do anything extraordinary. The WTA rankings flipped yet again, and the timing couldn't have been harsher for Anisimova, who watched her career-high ranking vanish almost as quickly as it had arrived. This raises a question. Does Amanda Anisimova's rapid rise and immediate fall prove that rankings don't truly matter, or does it show that she wasn't prepared for the pressure of being the top American? To understand the drama, it helps to set the scene. Anisimova had just overtaken Coco Gauff in the WTA rankings, becoming the U.S. #1 for the first time in her career. A huge milestone, a career-defining moment, the type of achievement that typically gets celebrated, analyzed, and treated as a major breakthrough. She had reached a career-high world #3 ranking and was firmly among the elite of women's tennis. The narrative seemed ready-made. Anisimova's comeback from a mental health break, her incredible 2025 season, and now her ascension to the top of American tennis. But in Brisbane, that story hit a sudden and brutal twist.
Well, I'll tell you what, if that is a sign of things to come.
Then Anisimova walked onto the court in Brisbane as the #2 seed, only to be completely overwhelmed by Marta Kostyuk, losing 6-4, 6-3 in her second match of the tournament. Just like that, the U.S. #1 ranking she had held for perhaps a week vanished, handed back to Coco Gauff, who didn't need to do anything particularly remarkable to reclaim it. Gauff had already been provisionally ahead in the live rankings, and Anisimova's loss in Brisbane simply made it official.
Lovely work off the backhand there from Anisimova. Desperate defending from Kostyuk, but it didn't pay off.
The timing couldn't have been harsher for Anisimova. She had 0 points dropping off her ranking that week, giving her a prime opportunity to extend her lead and cement her position at the top. Brisbane, a WTA 500 event, presented a perfect chance. She was seeded second and could have earned up to 500 ranking points, creating some breathing room between herself and Coco Gauff. Instead, she crashed out in the second round and watched her brief reign as the U.S. #1 evaporate almost as quickly as morning dew under the Australian sun.
And magnificent Marta motors into the quarterfinals here in Brisbane. Oh, that was some win against the number 3 seed, Amanda Anisimova, who was in sparkling form last night. But fast forward 24 hours, and she's been dumped out by Kostyuk. And that is a win that means a lot.
This match was not a hard-fought 3-set battle where Amanda Anisimova narrowly fell short. It was a straight sets loss in which she was outplayed from beginning to end. Marta Kostyuk controlled the tempo throughout, and Anisimova never found her rhythm or figured out how to shift momentum. The 6-4, 6-3 scoreline reflected a player who was not ready for the moment. The pressure of being the #2 seed, the expectations that come with a career-high ranking, and the sudden spotlight of becoming the U.S. #1 all appeared to weigh heavily on her, and Kostyuk took full advantage. To be fair, Anisimova had started the Brisbane tournament impressively. She dominated Kimberly Birrell 6-1, 6-3 in her opening match, looking sharp, confident, and fully prepared to justify her new ranking. But that momentum vanished almost instantly in the next round. This is the harsh reality of professional tennis. You are only as good as your last match, and rankings can flip in a single afternoon. While Anisimova was struggling in Brisbane, Coco Gauff was competing at the United Cup, steadily grinding through matches and accumulating ranking points without the same pressure. The United Cup's point system is complex, depending on opponent rankings and team progression, which initially caused Gauff's 25 points to drop and allowed Anisimova to briefly pass her. At one point, Anisimova led by just 14 points, enough to claim the US #1 ranking and spark a dramatic narrative about her rise. However, Gauff continued competing. She suffered a forgettable round-robin loss to Jessica Buses-Monero, but she also secured wins over Solana Sierra and, most importantly, Maria Sakkari. That quarter-final victory over Sakkari earned valuable points and pushed Gauff back ahead in the live rankings even before Anisimova's Brisbane loss made the switch official. With the United States advancing to the semifinals, Gauff now has even more opportunities to extend her lead. The irony is striking. Anisimova had the clearer path to consolidating her ranking, a WTA 500 event where she was the second seed with a favorable draw. Gauff, meanwhile, was navigating the unpredictable team format of the United Cup. Yet Gauff ended up back on top simply because she kept winning, while Anisimova could not handle the pressure of her new position. From a practical standpoint, this ranking switch does not affect the Australian Open draw. Both players fall within the same seeding group, meaning they will still be placed in the same half as either Aryna Sabalenka or Iga Swiatek. Whether Gauff is seeded third and Anisimova fourth, or vice versa, their path to the title remains equally difficult. In that sense, the US #1 debate has no tangible impact on the Grand Slam draw. Psychologically, however, the difference matters. Being the US #1 brings expectations, media scrutiny, and pressure. Anisimova experienced that burden for perhaps a week and immediately crumbled under it. That is concerning for a player expected to be ascending into true elite status. Gauff, on the other hand, has lived with this pressure for years. She has been the face of American women's tennis since her teens and has already won a Grand Slam while carrying those expectations. Anisimova's 2025 season remains impressive. Her comeback from a mental health break and rise to world #3 is a remarkable achievement. But this loss raises legitimate questions about whether she is ready to sustain elite-level pressure or whether her ranking was fueled by a hot streak rather than long-term consistency. Truly elite players do not lose in the second round of a WTA 500 event as the second seed immediately after reaching a career-high ranking. They rise to those moments. Anisimova did the opposite. One loss does not define a career, and it is entirely possible she will learn from this and return stronger. Still, the optics are brutal. Holding the US #1 ranking briefly, walking into the next tournament as a major seed, and then losing in straight sets is not the statement a future champion wants to make. The contrast with Gauff is stark. Despite her own setback at the United Cup, Gauff bounced back, defeated quality opponents, and helped her team advance. That resilience is what separates elite players from the rest. As both players head into the Australian Open, they do so in very different mental states. Gauff arrives in familiar territory, confident and battle-tested. Anisimova arrives with doubts swirling about her ability to handle pressure and sustain elite performance. The draw will be brutal for both, but mental strength often decides Grand Slams. Right now, Gauff clearly has the advantage. Tennis narratives shift quickly. Just days ago, Anisimova's rise to US #1 was being celebrated as a breakthrough moment. Now, that story has flipped entirely. Rankings that take months to build can disappear in a single afternoon if they are not backed up when it matters. Anisimova's Brisbane collapse did not just cost her a ranking, it cost her momentum and confidence heading into one of the biggest tournaments of the year. Meanwhile, Gauff reclaimed her place at the top, proving once again that handling pressure is just as important as talent.